11-game suspension for Deshaun Watson. So he will not be suspended for the full year. He will get a $5 million fine for reprehensible behavior. And I know anytime I have spoken about this from here, I have heard it. You're an NFL stooge. You don't talk about NFL owners with the same gusto. NFL owners need to be held to account in a better fashion by my bosses. That's a fact. They need to hold themselves to better account when they run afoul. But last I checked, nobody did what Deshaun Watson has done. Sliding into DMs, 66 different masseuses. Behavior that the person who initially handed down a 6-game suspension to called some of the most egregious behavior the NFL has ever had to discipline. And all I will say is this. I hope the guy seeks counseling. I hope he uses this 11-game suspension to find a better place for himself and deal with his clear issues that led to his behavior in Houston. It led to his behavior in Houston that caused his former team to settle a bunch of lawsuits that hadn't even been filed against him yet. And that when he comes back week 13, interestingly enough, in Houston, and there's one thing that I will be keen to see is if there is a requirement for this counseling for him to seek in order for him to get reinstated after an 11-game suspension. This gives me no pleasure to say this because, man, did I just love this kid coming out of the draft and his first few years in Houston, and the way that he comported himself otherwise in the community and outwardly is dream come true stuff, face of franchise type stuff that caused this behavior when it first came out to be so shocking. I didn't believe it. I thought, here comes some lawyer down in Houston using his Instagram account to get our attention on this matter. Bunch of people coming out of the woodwork accusing Deshaun Watson of this behavior that I do not believe. Caused me to think that this was something that was happening to take advantage of Deshaun Watson and who he is in his community. That was my first reaction. Then I started reading. Then I started hearing. Then I started researching. Then I started listening. And a lot of folks in Cleveland who are all in on Deshaun Watson, and I understand because the Browns have never had somebody this talented a quarterback, with all due respect to Baker Mayfield and everyone else who's played there before. And I don't blame Browns fans for being excited at having somebody this talented at the quarterback position. To get you excited. But you got to read what this guy did. And I've got to hear some serious contrition. Not that he apologizes for those he impacted. Some serious contrition, and I hope he gets the counseling, because that sort of behavior you wouldn't accept from anyone in your family. You wouldn't accept that from anybody if you run a business, from anybody that you've hired. You wouldn't want to accept that from anybody who you love. You wouldn't accept it. It's unacceptable behavior. And the NFL, didn't double his suspension, which is what I thought they would do. But 11 games is 11 games, and it's 12 weeks with a bye week. And part of the reason why I'm assuming they did this is because the new disciplinary function of the NFL, they want it to look and feel legitimate in the eyes of the fans and the Players Association. And I know there will be some people that think that Watson should never play again. But the bottom line is the NFL is not the place that you look for criminal adjudication. That's the court system. So if you're upset that Deshaun Watson still has a career. Go look at the people who didn't charge him criminally. So based on everything that's in front of the NFL, 11 games is a significant suspension. It definitely, if it matters to you in the football sense, absolutely puts a crimp in the Browns' Super Bowl hopes this year for any team and fans that think that they have them. Jacoby Brissett for 11 games is going to be the guy, unless they want to go out and get Jimmy Garoppolo, but that's the football sense of it. And the reality of it is the NFL had a player who wasn't criminally charged, and they have a player in a justice system that they have set up, a discipline system that they have set up that they want to have legitimate. And I imagine the Players Association does as well. And so week 13 in Houston, of all places, that's a 1 o'clock Eastern game, noon Central. I imagine it will be pegged there. They're not going to have a national television audience discuss the behavior of a player whose behavior is reprehensible and vile. Has been. And I hope, like I said, he seeks the counseling he needs. Because if you read what he has done, if you read the depositions, if you read the story in the New York Times, if you've read Sue L. Robinson's decision in suspending him for 6 games and why she did, then you will understand why I'm saying what I'm saying. So I hope when he returns in week 13, he is a better person and that he can look at a camera now that the discipline is done. And I'm assuming the one civil case that remains will be settled by then. And everything else is in his rearview mirror in terms of his legal exposure, that he can look at a camera and deliver a remorseful, introspective, and believable apology to all the fans who need to hear it in order to consider rooting for the Browns again. And I know a lot of Browns fans. I met them in Ohio just a few weeks ago who are very upset about this situation and don't understand the Browns fans who in the middle of all this are begging for his autograph. There are some people who need to hear something from Deshaun Watson, and I imagine he will deliver it, hopefully after he comes back from a serious 11. Like, I don't want to see him using this time other than to get the help that it's apparent he needs.